dive in right now. We do a little fantasy football perspective. We're going to do a prop stop and also a team lean over under on wins on the Minnesota Vikings this evening, beginning our four-part series on the NFC North. So let's go to the fantasy fans out there. Let's start with J.J. McCarthy, the great unknown rookie, kind of a rookie. He's really a second-year player, but he's been with the team over a year now, coming off that devastating injury that sidelined him last year. And led to the rise of Sam Darnold, who's now in Seattle. But J.J. McCarthy, quarterback 20, is the ADP, 157.85. PJ, I ask you, overvalued, undervalued, or properly valued? Again, quarterback 20, 157.85.
I think he's undervalued, Brad. Again, we just talked about Trevor Lawrence was QB 19. I think JJ should be higher this season. He's got the better head coach. He's got the better offensive line. He's got the better weapons on offense. And I think that the upside's higher for him. You know, Trevor, again, could have a good season. But JJ, I think, you know, in fantasy football, especially when you're drafting these kind of late quarterbacks, you want the guys with upside, man. You want some of the best stories in the NFL, some of the breakout stars, and JJ certainly could be that because of who his coach is and who his weapons are at receiver. He's got a top 10 offensive line in the NFL. I think he's undervalued, Brad. I think JJ McCarthy should probably be closer to QB 15 than he is QB 20. I think the upside is there. Again, his BetMGM over under 25.5 touchdowns. Plus, he's probably going to run for a few too. He's got good mobility. I would go undervalued on McCarthy.
You know, I'm going to say he's overvalued right now, and those are famous last words. I think he is going to be a guy that is going to rise. Is he going to rise meteorically? I don't know, but I think he's definitely going to rise up my ranks. I got him at quarterback 25 right now, and I think I'm probably undervaluing him, but I need to see more. I need to read more about him once, the real bullets of training camp really start flying. But he is one of those guys. I think his value is going to sorely, really soar and just increase as we get to the heart of the fantasy football draft season. You look at, ESPN's Mike Clay. He's got projected to be quarterback 13. Got him for 26 passing touchdowns and 3,705 yards. The guy can run on occasion. He's got projected for 206 rush yards. I think that might actually underserve him. Minnesota was middle of the pack in NFL pass rate. They call pass 57.42% of the time. That was number 15 in the league. But he's got arguably the best wide receiver in the NFC, or maybe the entire of the NFL, and Justin Jefferson. So it could be a lot of JJ to JJ this year. And we're not overlooking TJ Hawkinson. We're not overlooking Jordan Addison. We're not overlooking Aaron Jones. Pretty adept receiver out of the backfield, but slightly overvalued. I feel terrible about saying that. Because you're going to ask me that question probably in 6 to 7 weeks, and I'll say the opposite. All right, let's move on to Aaron Jones. RB25, 123.73 is the ADP. Same question. Overvalued, undervalued, or properly valued, PJ?
You know, I think he's properly valued, Brad. I think you can make a case for him being undervalued because he's coming off of his best year as a pro. I mean, he had his most carries. He had his most yards. He had only 5 rushing touchdowns, though, but the carries and the yards were there. And obviously because he's dealing with a young quarterback, right? We were talking earlier to a Vikings guest, and he preached, I mean, as a young quarterback, defense, run game. That's your best friend, right? So they'll definitely feature Aaron Jones, it feels like, early on in the season. You would expect him to have probably more than 5 rushing touchdowns this upcoming year, but you would also expect the carries and the yards maybe to dip a little bit. So I think there's a case to be made for both things about Aaron Jones. I think early on in the season, he could have some good numbers, and then as the season kind of goes along, I mean, the middle of their schedule, Brad, they're facing some really good teams with some good defenses. So it's going to be tough. I think he's kind of going to teeter off towards the end of the year. Not somebody that I probably would invest in because when the playoff time roll around in fantasy, might not be great. But again, early in the year, I think he could have some good moments. So I think he's properly valued, I think, at 25.
Yeah, I've got it properly valued. That's exactly where I have him ranked right now at thegamingjuice.com. You can always check out all my rankings on that site. You look at the overall strength of schedule according to Full Time Fantasy. It's not the greatest for running back. Number 24 in terms of easiest. So you're talking about the 8th hardest overall fantasy strength of schedule projected for running back. Mike Clay has got it projected for 768 on the ground, only 4 touchdowns, with 45 receptions, 343, and 3 touchdowns through the air. So again, he's kind of that fringy RB2 in 12 team leagues. Jordan Mason is going to play a role. Jordan Mason is going to be a goal line gremlin in my estimation in this offense. Jordan Mason could be sneaky effective for those of you standard leaguers out there and score for receptions. Jones getting long in the tooth. He was only number RB 2079 per attempt last year, but 13 in total missed tackles for us, 11 in yards created per touch. And as we talked, Pete Bursich earlier in the show, the opportunity share of 63.4% is probably going to shrink. Could be closer to a 50-50 split with Mason. So, yeah, properly valued, almost slightly overvalued is my call on Aaron Jones. Justin Jefferson, wide receiver 2, 4.94. What do you say, PJ? Overvalued, undervalued, or properly valued for one of the best wideouts in the NFL?
I mean, yeah, look, it's hard to call Justin Jefferson overvalued in anything, but I think at wide receiver 2, just because of the uncertainty of McCarthy, I think he's a little overvalued. I think you certainly have to put Jamar Chase at number 1, but I think there's some cases to be made for some other guys who are in some better situations with obviously some terrific quarterbacks. So Jefferson definitely should be top 5. I think maybe you can make the argument at top 3, maybe put him there at 3. I just don't know if I would take a shot with him at 2. I think, Brad, if you're drafting somebody at the top 5, you have to be super confident in the position that they're in, right? You really can't be sitting there and being like, there's some downside. What if McCarthy's just terrible? I mean, we see Malik Neighbors, great player, stuck with the terrible quarterback situation. I don't think McCarthy's going to be that bad, but I don't think Jefferson's the risk at 2. So I think he's a little overvalued because of the uncertainty of McCarthy.
Slightly overvalued. I have Jamar Chase at 1. I have Puka Nacua at 2. I think Puka's going to ball out this year. And then I have Justin Jefferson at 3. Now, the good news is this. Justin Jefferson has the second easiest projected fantasy strength of schedule for a wide receiver. Outstanding matchups for him. Obviously, the volume is going to be there. 9.0 targets per game. He was number 12 in air yards last year. He was only number 60 in catchable target rate. So that actually could be an improved overall situation for him, going from Darnold to J.J. McCarthy, but there are so many unknowns that are tied to McCarthy. So given that, that's why I think wide receiver 3 seems fair. So slightly overvalued at wide receiver 2 in the ADP. All right, let's go to his tag team partner there, and Jordan Jefferson, wide receiver 32, 121.56. Peach, overvalued, undervalued, or properly valued, my man?
Yeah, I think Addison, he's properly valued, maybe a little undervalued. Like maybe you put him at wide receiver 29, 30, somewhere in that neighborhood. Obviously, when you're dealing with Jefferson, I mean, there's pros and cons to it, right? You've got one of the best receivers in football on the other side of you, but that's going to draw a lot of attention to the other guys. Addison isn't going to have the outputs that Jefferson is. He's not going to have the ceiling that Jefferson has, but again, it's McCarthy. Like, what are you going to get? As a young player, is he just going to focus in on Jefferson because he knows that's one of the best receivers, or is he going to run the offense and just hit the open guy? And if that's Addison, then you throw it to Addison. I think he's properly valued. The upside, you can make an argument that maybe he's under, but Brad, I think 32 is a good number. If I had to say, I'd probably go properly valued.
I've got him at 33.
Okay.
It's crazy. So I would say slightly overvalued, I guess. You look at Mike Clay, projected to be wide receiver 42, to put it in perspective, but he was only number 105 in route win percentage. That's the area concern, getting that separation from defenders. So we had a ton of red zone targets, number 10 in total red zone targets last year. So a prop stop, J.J. McCarthy, over under 25.5 passing touchdowns. Minus 115, either way.
I got to go under. I mean, he could go over. I just think there's a lot more that could go wrong than it goes right with a kid making his first career NFL start, making his first, season as a starter. I'll go under 25.5.
Man, this is a bullish number. For, again, the great unknown. It's a great offensive environment. You have a dynamite wide receiver core spearheaded there by Justin Jefferson with Addison, with Hawkinson, but 26 passing touchdowns to catch the over? Don't thank you. I think the under is going to hit. I think it's going to be like 24 at the end. Give me TJ Hockenson next. 725.5 receiving yards. Minus 115 on the over. Minus 115 on the under. PJ, what say you?
Brad, I think, again, this has to be another under. I mean, only once in his career has he gone over this number, even his time back in Detroit, right? And he's getting older, first full year removed from the injury, but with McCarthy as the quarterback, you don't know. I think you got to go under on Hockenson as well.
Yeah, is he going to play even 15 games? That's the question you got to have. If he plays 16 games, I think he's going to hit the over, but I ain't buying it. Give me the under on 725 and a half receiving yards. How about Justin Jefferson? 1,200 and a half receiving yards, minus 120 on the over, plus 100 on the under.
Here's Justin Jefferson's career as a pro. 1,400, 1,600, 1,800, 1,500, and then the 1 year where he got hurt, he still had over 1,000 yards. There's no way I'm taking an under on Justin Jefferson. It'd be over or pass.
Yeah, emphatic over. He's going to get peppered with targets. And again, he is a du jour at the position. All right, let's do a team lean. Over under 8.5 wins for this team. Minus 150 on the over. Plus 125 on the under, PJ.
It's a good line, Brad, but the fact they're giving us plus 125 on the under with their schedule middle of the season, I'll take the under 8.5.
Third hardest strength of schedule projected in the NFL this season. Give me the under, especially at plus 125. Handsome juice there.